post something on social media, who do you imagine will actually see it? Presumably, you hope certain people will see it, but you maybe hope that other people won't see it. And the reality is that we can never be truly certain who our audience for the things that we post online. So that means that we have to imagine who is actually going to see it. And the reality is never the same. This leads us to discuss the concept of context collapse, which means that information leaks from one social setting into another. It's also very true that it can leak from one time period to another. So you can say something years ago that comes back to haunt you today. And of course, all of this happens very easily online than it does offline. The root of this is basically the point of context collapse, is that parents really need to be good role models online for their children. Because, the reality is that most parents of young children themselves have been online for many, many years, and as a result have left a digital exhaust, you might say, on the internet. And no matter how embarrassing it might be, it is important that we as parents and as caregivers use our own social media history to educate our children about how they will in turn experience the internet. You may not think that your child would ever consider Googling you, but it is impossible to prevent that from happening. So what would your son or daughter find when they see you on social media? What kind of role model do you think you are on the internet? So context collapse, therefore, encourages us to, re-examine your privacy settings, to Google yourself, but also perhaps download your social media archive. This could be a useful tool for us to reflect on, where we've come from, looking at things that we posted many years ago and see how we've come to where we are now, to learn about how we've grown as individuals. And you can use this with your children to show them how they will grow as well. You can also point out to them that the many services that the likes of parents like you and I used possibly in our youth, maybe the word Bebo rings a bell for some of you, wound up, disappeared, and all of our data with them. So that's going to happen to the social media services that we're using today. They're going to end up disappearing too at some point. But it's also important as well to remember to advise your children before they start using any social media account to make sure that they still have access to the phone number or the email address which they use to set up a new social media account. Because the time's going to come when you're going to want to delete that account, and to delete that account, you're going to need the email address or the phone number that you used to set it up in the first place. Some of the research around this has asked people, what is your intended audience for your social media content? And the thing that some people say is that their audience for the things that they post isn't their friends or family or their fans, but their audience is actually themselves. So they're writing online for their own emotional well-being. And this is something that you should mention to your children before they open up a social media account as well, is that perhaps there are things they might think about posting online that might be better off in a diary or in a journal, because that's where that they could have a more private way of working out their own self-development as they grow through their teenage years into adulthood. And that's something to bear in mind as well about context collapse and about online safety.